Jesse, you made some really sweet looking Ninja Turtle Colossus guys.
Yeah. I was like, they have this ability where you can, you can create different loadouts and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I had picked the Colossus as my second Javelin and was just kind of going through some of the armor options that you can unlock and stuff like that. And one of them that I like that you could buy or whatever with your in-game credits was like this big, like, it looked like a big shell piece that went over the front of your Javelin. And so then I was fooling around with the textures that you can use for the style of the covers or whatever of your shaders or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And one of them made it look like the textures of the turtle shells in the movies. And so I'm like, oh, dude, I could totally make this like look like a turtle shell. So I made it that turtle shell green, and then I'm like, oh, I should just make all four different turtle colors. And awesome. So then I was just kind of screwing around with it and figuring out the right colors for each turtle. But yeah, that was kind of fun. I've been having fun, like just trying to, be like screw around with the coloring and making things look unique and stuff. So
yeah, I just made a whole set of N7 armor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I've been trying to play as much as I can, but my Xbox isn't like loading things correctly and not connecting to the internet correctly. Yeah. So like, I'm gonna try to hard reset my Xbox and see if that does something. But I don't know. So I ended up rebuying the game on PlayStation and starting over, which I don't know if that was a good or bad decision at this point, but I know I needed to cover something, since we're doing an Anthem podcast, I needed to play it somewhere. So,
isn't Moose talking about getting it anyways?
Matt and Moose both got it.
Oh, okay. So I mean, you can always then at least you'd have some people to play with on there as well. So it's not as big of a deal.
I know, but I mean, to be honest, I bought it to play with you. So I mean, it wasn't
yeah. No, I know, but I'm just saying at least it won't be a complete waste.
Yeah.
Because if there's during the week, if you ever get time to play it or something and they're available, you could always team up with them.
Yeah, well, last week Matt and I were going to play it earlier this week, but he got to the point where it said Anthem is ready for you to play, and we were kind of in a party chat and we were going to play together, and he played through those first two missions where like, the first mission where you kind of, the big kind of opening mission, and then the second one where you're flying through that tunnel and collecting those orbs to put in that thing, and then you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then it got to this loading screen and it just stopped. And it turns out the game was still downloading because the first two missions are actually on the disc.
Oh, okay.
Because they're like, they're not requiring you to connect to the internet to play those first two missions because they're not multiplayer missions. And then the rest of the game is like, it was just funny. So we ended up playing Apex instead. But it was just funny because we were planning on playing together, and we ended up playing Apex because this game didn't download all the way.
Yeah.
So,
that's a fun game to play too. So
yeah, it's you know what? That's fair. That is a very fun video game to play. Some say that they put that game out to kill Anthem, but I don't think so. I just think I think they kind of serve two separate audiences at this point. But
yeah,
but I've been playing. I've probably put like 10 hours into the game. I just haven't. They haven't been 10 consistent hours because the first like 4 were probably on Xbox, and then the next 6 have been on PlayStation. But what's weird though is like the PlayStation load times are like half of what Xboxes are.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, but at the same time, I think Digital Foundry said PlayStation favors frame rate over resolution.
Okay.
So it's not loading those 4K textures because it only runs at 1080p on PlayStation. It doesn't matter what you're playing on. So even if you're playing in 4K, it upscales it to 4K, but it doesn't have 4K textures.
Yeah.
So
So that would make sense then, because Xbox is having to load a lot more.
Yeah. So yeah, that is one thing, and like I was unsure if it was going to or not, but it does kind of run noticeably better on a PlayStation in terms of how smooth it runs.
Okay.
But I will say, like, it does hover in the 40s in terms of frame rate, but it does dip down into the 20s at some point, whereas Xbox does run it. It's locked at 30. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been having a good time. I made an N7 set of armor for my Ranger. I just got to the point where I could unlock another Javelin on PlayStation, just because like I've been doing the story missions, but I've also been doing a lot of the side missions and just free play in general. Which I know you've been doing a lot of free play in general also, where you're just making the rounds, opening the chests, and doing the world events and stuff.
Yeah.
And like it's just really fun to fly around the world, man. It's like I hear a lot of things on podcasts and stuff and saying like the world is like uninspired and too samey and it's hard to get big landmarks and stuff, which I don't really think that's the case, but I don't know. I kind of know where I'm at once, like if I'm just kind of flying around, I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of like, here's where the waterfall is. Here's where that kind of broken down shanty town is. Here's where, the other side of the fort is. You know what I mean? Like there are landmarks. You just got to kind of play long enough to know the map. And
you got to discover them too. Like, because I notice a lot of the landmarks, I think you like kind of there'll be something you can land at and it, like discover it.
Yeah.
Kind of in a way.
Yeah.
So like, like I feel like I don't know if they do it like where when you discover some of that it shows up on the map. I don't remember.
Yeah, it does. It just says landmark discovered or something, or area discovered, I think is what it really says.
Yeah.
But I'm having a good time playing it, and I haven't really played with any friends yet besides that time that we played together.
Yeah.
And so I'm just playing with a bunch of randoms and stuff. It was funny because I was playing Apex earlier, and then I switched over to Anthem just to play a couple missions, and I kept hitting R or right bumper or R1 to like ping stuff, and I kept shooting my arm rockets. I'm like, oh, yeah. Which I was like, man, Anthem would be so smart to put a ping system in here.
Yeah.
Every game should just have a ping system now.
Yeah.
Anthem makes me want ping systems in every game.
I know, and I was playing Blackout a couple of days ago, and that as well, like that has a ping system now, but it's a lot more convoluted. Like it's
is it?
I forget what you have to do. I think you have to push like one of the directionals or something like that. I think it's like it's in that menu that you open up to do a taunt. I think.
Okay.
Or something like that. But so it's a little bit less, like as easy to do on the fly.
Yeah.
But at least they do have it in there. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just so much easier to put it on a button like they do in Apex.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if it's just because Blackout, like there's more things going on, or if it's just maybe they could change it up. I don't know, but yeah, it would be nice if they would put it on a button like on Apex for sure.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, I would. Man, I wish it was on a button. But anyways, yeah, Anthem. I'm having a good time with it. I do see where some people are kind of. The people who have played through the campaign in a week and have gotten to max level and doing that grind, like I see where like some of the stuff could get super samey and repetitive, which it's a loot shooter. That's kind of what they are. I mean, even Diablo, like I would compare the loot system to this to Diablo more than something like Destiny, but it's still kind of like the same thing where like, hey, we're gonna go do this dungeon again. Or I guess Stronghold in this case, like and so like my thing is Destiny was the same way. You know, Destiny and Destiny 2 were the same way. There's a campaign you go through, there's a couple strikes and a couple missions, and like the thing Destiny had that this doesn't was a raid, but like at the same time it's like it's everything else is generally the same. So I just, people who have kind of blown through the content, my advice would be just be patient, because like there's going to be content added where you're going to want to go back, and you know, a year from now there's going to be so much in the game. I mean, judging by what the Division and Destiny did, there's going to be so much in the game that like you're going to be overwhelmed with content to do, which is where I think people want it to be at from the get-go, and that's just not going to be the case for any of these games, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I read it.
Well, in that, like, if they did do that, it just in general, it's going to take them way longer to you know, finish things, you know, the game in general. Like, it's just, you know, unfortunately, there's just there just seems to be so much that went into this game, like developing it. Like, you know, it's just something brand new. Like, I mean, I'm sure they used a lot of things like engine wise from the Mass Effect games, but I feel like it's like just such a completely different thing that it just, you know, it just takes a long time to make games. I think it's just people don't realize how much has to go into making something like that. Like, you know, like every single game that's in that style has never came out with too much content, because that's just not the way it works.
Yeah, and you know, I just want to say, like, this is not the same BioWare that made Baldur's Gate or Dragon Age or anything. Like, there's been a lot of turnover on that team, and if this is the new direction BioWare is going, they have to learn, you know, like they have to learn how to make a game that's theirs, you know, and BioWare has such a name to it that like people think of certain games when they think of BioWare, but at the same time it's like, no, this is this team's game, this is their vision. You have to build a skeleton and then fill it in, right? You can't just have it all together and just here's all these missions and content for you to play out the gate, because then what are you coming back for down the road? And so I think, you know, I think people just need to give this game a little bit of a chance to breathe, and you know, we have that 90-day roadmap, which is something Destiny or the Division 1 didn't have. We have a structure now of what's coming in terms of, is it story missions? Is it stronghold? Are they strongholds? Are they cataclysms? You know, those types of things are out there now, and that roadmap is here, and it shows us exactly what's coming, when, and everything. So, I give them props for having that, you know, because that is tough to do with a game like this. So, you know,
yeah, because they're you know, they're having to commit to getting stuff out at a certain time, you know.
Yeah,
like that's like it puts a lot of stress on, you know, on like trying to make sure that you get things done and hold up, you know, to what you're telling the people. So
yeah.